Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, staring at the strange ships that had appeared on his screens just minutes ago. The vessels looked like they were made of crystal and light, bending the stars around them in ways that hurt his eyes to look at directly. He had been exploring space for 12 years, but he had never seen anything like this. "Sir, we're getting some kind of signal," said Lieutenant Amy Chun from her station. "It's not like any human communication I've ever heard." Jake nodded and walked closer to the main screen. The alien ships moved in perfect formation, like a school of fish swimming through the darkness of space. There were 7 of them, each one about the size of his own ship. They had appeared without warning near the edge of human territory, in a system that Earth's government claimed but had never fully explored. "Try to respond," Jake ordered. "Use the standard first contact protocols." The communications officer began sending out mathematical sequences and basic pictographs. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the alien ships began to move, spreading out in what looked like a battle formation. "That doesn't look friendly," muttered Chief Engineer Pete Williams from his station. Pete was an older man who had served on exploration ships for most of his adult life. He had seen his share of dangerous situations. Jake felt his stomach tighten. First contact with a new alien species was supposed to be handled by trained diplomats, not a simple exploration captain like himself. But here he was, faced with 7 unknown ships that seemed ready for a fight. "All hands, this is the captain," Jake announced over the ship's communication system. "We may have a situation here. Everyone to battle stations, but do not power weapons unless I give the order." The bridge crew moved quickly to their positions. Jake could feel the tension in the air as his people prepared for what might be humanity's first real space battle with aliens. The Horizon was not a warship, but it had defensive weapons and shields. Jake hoped they would not need them. The alien ships continued to spread out, forming a circle around the horizon. Jake realized they were being surrounded, but he forced himself to remain calm. Maybe this was just how these aliens said hello. Maybe they were just as nervous as he was. "Sir, I'm detecting energy buildup in their weapon systems," reported Tactical Officer Bob Miller. "They're definitely preparing to fight." Jake's mind raced. He had 2 choices. He could try to run or he could try to talk. Running might make him look weak or guilty of something. But talking required the aliens to understand that he wanted to communicate peacefully. "Open a channel," Jake decided. "All frequencies." He stepped forward, knowing that his next words might determine whether humanity made a new friend or a new enemy. "Unknown vessels, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earthship Horizon. We come in peace. We mean no harm to you or your people. Please respond." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then one of the alien ships moved closer, and Jake's screen flickered. An image appeared that made everyone on the bridge gasp. The alien was clearly female, with pale blue skin and long silver hair that seemed to move like liquid metal. Her eyes were large and dark, and she wore what looked like armor made of the same crystal material as her ships. She was beautiful in a way that was both alien and somehow familiar. When she spoke, her voice was like music, but the words were harsh and demanding. "Human vessel, you have entered sacred space belonging to the Veltar Empire. State your business here or face the consequences of trespass." Jake felt relief wash over him. At least they could talk. "I am Captain Morrison. We are explorers from Earth. We did not know this space belonged to anyone. We apologize for any offense." The alien woman's expression did not change. "I am Commander Zara Velfic of the Veltar Imperial Fleet. Your species is unknown to us. How did you come to possess technology for traveling between stars?" This was a dangerous question. Jake knew that some alien species might see humans as a threat if they knew how quickly Earth had developed space travel. But lying would be worse than telling the truth. "We developed it ourselves over the past century," Jake said carefully. "We are a young species, new to space travel. We seek only knowledge and peaceful contact with other civilizations." Commander Zara's eyes narrowed. Behind her, Jake could see other aliens moving about what looked like the bridge of her ship. They all had the same pale blue skin and silver hair, though none had hair as long or elaborate as hers. "A young species," she repeated. One that claims peaceful intent but carries weapons. Only for defense, Jake said quickly. We have encountered dangerous situations in space. Pirates, hostile wildlife, natural disasters. We do not seek conflict. Yet you enter our space without permission, Zara said. This system has been claimed by the Veltar for over 300 of your years. Your ignorance does not excuse your trespass. Jake felt his heart sink. He had hoped this would be a simple misunderstanding, but it was becoming clear that the situation was more serious than he had thought. We will leave immediately, he offered. We had no intention of violating your territory. Zara was quiet for a moment, seeming to consider his words. Then she spoke again, and her tone had changed. It was colder now, more formal. The Council of Veltar has declared that any unknown species found in our space must be evaluated for potential threat. You will surrender your vessel for inspection, or you will be destroyed. Jake's crew looked at him with worried faces. They all knew that surrendering meant putting their lives in alien hands, but fighting meant almost certain death. I cannot surrender my ship, Jake said. I have a duty to protect my crew and my mission, but I am willing to discuss terms for peaceful resolution. Zara's expression hardened. There are no terms. You will comply, or you will be eliminated. Jake realized that the conversation was over. These aliens, the Veltar, were not interested in negotiation. They saw humans as either subjects to be controlled or enemies to be destroyed. All hands, prepare for evasive action, Jake announced to his crew. Then he looked back at the screen. Commander Zara, I am sorry that we cannot reach an agreement. But I will not surrender my ship or my people. Zara's image disappeared from the screen, and immediately the alien ships began to move. Their crystal hulls started to glow with deadly energy. Incoming fire! Shouted Bob Miller. The horizon shook as alien weapons struck its shields. Jake grabbed the nearest console to keep from falling as the lights flickered. Return fire, Jake ordered. Target their engines, not their main hulls. Try to disable, not destroy. The space battle that followed was unlike anything Jake had ever experienced. The Veltar ships moved like dancers, flowing around each other in patterns that seemed impossible. Their weapons fired beams of pure energy that cut through space like swords of light. The Horizon fought back with everything it had, but Jake knew they were outmatched. His ship was designed for exploration, not war. The Veltar ships were clearly built for battle. Shields at 30%, reported Pete Williams. Hull breach. On deck 4. Sir, we're losing power to the engines, added Amy Chun. We can't keep this up much longer. Jake watched the battle unfold on his screens, his mind racing for a solution. They could not win this fight with weapons. They needed something else, something unexpected. Then he saw it. One of the Veltar ships had moved too close to the horizon while making an attack run. Its shields were down for just a moment, and Jake saw his chance. Prepare for emergency boarding, he announced. I'm going to take the fight to them. Jake Morrison grabbed his plasma blade and emergency kit as alarms blared throughout the horizon. The ship shuddered again under alien fire, and he could hear metal groaning under stress. His plan was desperate, but it was the only chance they had. Captain, you can't be serious, said Pete Williams, following Jake toward the airlock. Boarding an alien ship during battle is suicide. Staying here is also suicide, Jake replied, checking his suit seals. At least this way we might have a chance. If I can disable their command ship, maybe the others will stop firing. Amy Chen's voice crackled over the communication system. Sir, the Veltar ship is less than 50 meters away. Their shields are fluctuating. Jake looked through the airlock window and saw the alien vessel. Up close, it was even more beautiful and terrifying. The crystal hull seemed to pulse with inner light, and he could see movement through what looked like transparent sections. The ship was definitely alive with activity. Launch me when I give the signal, Jake told Pete. And keep our guns firing. I need them distracted, Pete nodded grimly. Good luck, Captain. Jake sealed his helmet and stepped into the airlock. Through his suit radio, he could hear his crew coordinating the battle. The Horizon was taking heavy damage, but his people were fighting with everything they had. The airlock cycled, and Jake felt himself launched into space. For a moment, he floated in the darkness between two ships, watching energy beams streak past him like deadly fireworks. Then his magnetic grapples caught the alien hull, and he pulled himself toward what looked like an access port. The Veltar ship was not designed for human hands, but Jake managed to find a way inside. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows as he moved through corridors that seemed to be carved from living crystal. The walls hummed with energy, and he could feel vibrations through his boots. Jake had studied the external scans of the ship, and guessed that the command center would be near the top of the main hull. He moved carefully, trying to stay quiet, but his human footsteps echoed loudly in the alien corridors. He was halfway to his destination when he heard voices ahead. Jake pressed himself against the wall and listened. The Veltar language sounded like singing, but the tone was urgent. They were looking for him. Jake drew his plasma blade and moved forward. The corridor opened into a larger chamber filled with control panels that looked like they were made of liquid light. 3 Veltar crew members stood with their backs to him, focused on their work. Jake tried to sneak past them, but one of the aliens turned and saw him. The aliens shouted something in their musical language, and suddenly the room was full of activity. The Veltar moved fast, faster than Jake had expected. They drew weapons that looked like curved swords made of pure energy. Jake barely got his plasma blade up in time to block the first attack. The fight was brutal and chaotic. The Veltar were skilled fighters, but they seemed surprised by Jake's unpredictable human fighting style. He did not follow any formal combat rules. He kicked, punched, and used his environment in ways that confused his opponents. Jake managed to disable 2 of the aliens, but the third one got away. He knew that reinforcements would be coming soon. He had to find the command center quickly. Following the sound of voices and the hum of more powerful equipment, Jake made his way deeper into the ship. The corridors were getting wider and more elaborate. The walls were covered with what looked like carved symbols that glowed with soft light. Finally, Jake found what he was looking for. The command center was a large circular room with a raised platform in the center. Standing on that platform, giving orders to her crew, was Commander Zara Velfek. She was even more impressive in person than on the communication screen. Her silver hair flowed around her like liquid metal, and Jake could see now that it was braided with small gems and metal ornaments that caught the light. Her armor fit her perfectly, and she moved with the grace of a trained warrior. Zara saw Jake the moment he entered the room. She said something sharp to her crew, and they immediately moved to defensive positions around the chamber. But Zara herself stepped down from the platform and drew her own weapon. "So, the human captain comes to face me directly," she said in accented English. "This shows courage, but also foolishness." Jake raised his plasma blade. "I came to stop this battle. My people don't want war with yours. War is not what you want." "But war is what you have brought," Zara replied. "By entering our space, by refusing to submit, you have chosen conflict." Zara's energy sword ignited with a sound like singing crystal. The blade was longer than Jake's plasma weapon, and it moved through the air with deadly beauty. The duel began with careful testing moves. Both fighters were experienced, but they had trained for completely different styles of combat. Jake used quick strikes and sudden changes of direction. Zara fought with flowing movements that seemed to follow ancient patterns. The battle moved around the command center as other Veltar crew members stepped out of the way. Jake could hear the sounds of space combat continuing outside. His ship was still fighting, but he knew the horizon could not last much longer. Zara was skilled, but Jake began to notice that her fighting style was predictable. She followed formal moves that were probably taught in Veltar military schools. Jake, on the other hand, had learned to fight in bars and back alleys before joining the space service. When Zara made a high attack that Jake recognized from earlier in the fight, he rolled low and came up with an unexpected angle. His plasma blade met her energy sword, and both weapons sparked with dangerous energy. The impact sent both fighters staggering backward. Zara recovered first and launched a spinning attack that should have cut Jake in half. But Jake was already moving diving to one side and bringing his blade up in a desperate defensive move. What happened next changed everything. Jake's plasma blade caught the edge of Zara's energy field just as she spun past him. The interaction between the two weapon types created a feedback loop that sent a wild energy discharge across the room. The discharge was not strong enough to hurt anyone, but it struck Zara's elaborate hair braids with surgical precision. The energy cut through the metal ornaments and gems like they were made of paper. Jake watched in shock as Zara's beautiful silver hair fell to the floor around her feet. The braids that had been woven with such care unraveled, and the precious ornaments scattered across the crystal deck with tiny ringing sounds. Zara stopped moving immediately. Her energy sword deactivated and fell from her hand. She stood perfectly still, staring down at her severed hair with an expression that Jake could not read. The other Veltar in the room had also stopped what they were doing. They all stared at their commander with what looked like horror and amazement. For a long moment nobody moved or spoke. The only sounds were the distant vibrations of the space battle and the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Then Zara slowly sank to one knee. She bowed her head and spoke in a voice so quiet that Jake had to strain to hear her. "By the ancient laws of my people, you have severed my bond to my former life," she whispered. The hair of a Veltar warrior carries the essence of her ancestors, her achievements, and her place in society. When it is cut by another's blade in combat, it means the universe has chosen a new path. Jake stared at her, completely confused. "What are you talking about?" Zara looked up at him, and Jake saw something in her dark eyes that he had not seen before. It was not anger or hatred. It was acceptance and something that might have been relief. "Now I must serve you for life," she said. Jake Morrison stared at the kneeling alien commander, his mind struggling to understand what had just happened. Around them, the other Veltar crew members had also dropped to their knees, their heads bowed as if they were witnessing something. "Sacred, I don't understand," Jake said. "What do you mean you have to serve me?" Zara remained kneeling, her eyes fixed on the scattered remains of her silver hair. "It is Thakmur," she said quietly, "the ancient bond. When a warrior's ceremonial hair is severed in combat, it means their old life has ended. They must begin a new life in service to the one who freed them from their past." Jake looked around the command center. The space battle outside had stopped. Through the transparent sections of the hull, he could see that all the Veltar ships had powered down their weapons. "Commander Zara," Jake started, but she interrupted him. "I am no longer a commander," she said. "I am no longer Zara Velfic of the Imperial Fleet. I am simply Zara, and I belong to you now." One of the Veltar crew members stood up and approached them carefully. He was older than the others, with scars on his blue skin that spoke of many battles. "Human," the older alien said in broken English. You have done something very important, very sacred. Zara was our leader, but now she is your responsibility." Jake felt panic rising in his chest. "I don't want anyone to be my responsibility. This was an accident. I didn't mean to cut her hair." "Accidents do not happen in combat," the scarred Veltar replied. "The universe guided your blade. This is the way of things." Jake activated his communication system. "Horizon, this is the captain. What's your status?" Amy Chen's voice crackled through the static. "Captain, the alien ships have stopped firing. Are you all right? We lost contact with you 20 minutes ago." "I'm fine, but we have a situation here. The battle is over, but things have gotten complicated." Jake looked down at Zara, who was still kneeling on the crystal floor. Her short hair, what was left of it, barely reached her shoulders now. Without the elaborate braids and ornaments, she looked younger and somehow more vulnerable. "Can you return to your ship?" Jake asked her. Zara shook her head. "My ship is no longer mine. My people are no longer my people. Where you go, I must follow." The older Veltar warrior stepped forward again. "I am Sub-Commander Kelt Morak. I will take command of this fleet and return to Veltar space. But Zara cannot come with us. She is dead to us now until she proves herself worthy of new honor." Jake felt sick. "You're just going to abandon her?" "We are not abandoning her," Kelt said. "We are respecting the ancient ways." Zara has been given a chance for a new kind of glory, but she must earn it through service to you. Over the next few hours, Jake found himself in the middle of the strangest situation of his life. The Veltar fleet prepared to leave, but first they had to transfer Zara's personal belongings to the Horizon. It was a formal ceremony that took place in the docking bay of Zara's former ship. Jake watched as Veltar warriors brought boxes of items to the airlock. Most of it looked like personal equipment, weapons, and what might have been family keepsakes. Zara stood beside him, silent and still, as her former life was packed away. "This is crazy," Jake muttered to himself. "What is crazy?" Zara asked. It was the first time she had spoken directly to him since the hair-cutting incident. "All of this," Jake said. "You're a military commander? You have your own ship, your own crew? You can't just throw that away because of an accident." Zara looked at him with her large dark eyes. "You do not understand. What you call an accident, we call fate. My hair was not just decoration. It carried the stories of my ancestors, the record of my battles, the mark of my family's honor. When it was cut, those connections were severed. I am no longer who I was." "But you're still you," Jake insisted. "You still have your memories, your skills, your personality. Nothing important has really changed." "Everything has changed," Zara said quietly. "In your human culture, perhaps individual identity comes from within, but for the Veltar identity comes from our connections to family, to history, to our place in society. Without those connections, I must find a new way to exist." Jake was quiet for a moment, trying to understand. Finally, he asked, "What if I don't want you to serve me? What if I just want you to go back to your people and forget this happened?" "That is not possible," Zara said. "The bond of Thakmer cannot be broken by either of our wishes. It is written in the cosmic order, but—" She paused, looking uncertain for the first time. "But I have been thinking about your human ways. Your people value individual choice, do they not?" "Yes," Jake said. "We believe everyone should be free to make their own decisions about their life." "This is a strange concept to me," Zara admitted. "But perhaps there is wisdom in it. Perhaps the universe cut my hair not to make me your slave, but to teach me about your way of thinking." The transfer ceremony finished, and Sub-Commander Knelt approached them one last time. "Human Jake Morrison," he said formally. "The Veltar fleet will return to our home worlds. We will report that first contact with your species resulted in the sacred bond of Thakmer. This will change how our government views humanity. Is that good or bad?" Jake asked. "It depends on what you and Zara accomplish together," Knelt replied. "If she finds new honor through service to you, it will reflect well on both our species. If she fails... He did not finish the sentence. After the Veltar fleet departed, Jake returned to the Horizon with his new companion. The crew was curious, but respectful as Zara was given quarters near Jake's cabin. Dr. Lisa Park, the ship's science officer and cultural specialist, was particularly fascinated by the situation. "Captain," Lisa said during a private meeting in Jake's quarters, "this could be the most important anthropological event in human history. We have a chance to learn about an entirely different way of thinking about identity and social bonds." "I just want to get back to normal," Jake said. "But Zara insists she has to serve me now. She won't take orders from anyone else, and she won't make decisions for herself." "What kind of service does she want to provide?" "She says she can be my bodyguard, my advisor on Veltar culture, and my aide in any military situations. She also knows a lot about their technology." Lisa raised her eyebrows. "That actually sounds incredibly valuable. The Veltar are obviously an advanced species. Having one of their former military commanders as an ally could benefit all of humanity. But she's not doing it by choice," Jake protested. "She's doing it because she thinks she has to." Are you sure about that?" Lisa asked. "From what you've told me, she could have chosen death instead of service. Many warrior cultures have that option. Maybe she chose this path because she saw something in you or in humanity that interested her." Jake thought about this conversation as he tried to sleep that night. In the cabin next to his, Zara was probably having her own struggles with the situation. Tomorrow, they would begin the long journey back to Earth, and Jake would have to figure out how to explain all of this to his superiors, but tonight he found himself wondering if Lisa was right. Maybe Zara had chosen this path for reasons that had nothing to do with ancient laws or cosmic fate. Maybe she was just as curious about humans as they were about her. The next morning, Jake found Zara in the ship's observation lounge, staring out at the stars. Her short hair caught the light from nearby suns, and she looked different somehow. Smaller, but also more focused. "How are you feeling?" Jake asked, sitting down beside her. "Strange," Zara admitted. "For my entire life I knew exactly who I was and what I was supposed to do. Now I must learn new ways of being." "Maybe that's not such a bad thing," Jake said. "Maybe change can be good." Zara looked at him with something that might have been the beginning of a smile. "Perhaps you are right, Jake Morrison. Perhaps the universe has given us both something to learn." 3 weeks had passed since Jake Morrison and Zara began their journey back to Earth together. The Horizon was making steady progress through space, but the relationship between Jake and his unwilling companion had become more complicated with each passing day. Zara had taken her role as Jake's aide very seriously. She woke before him every morning, prepared reports about ship operations, and followed him around like a shadow. She refused to eat until he had finished his meals, would not sit unless he sat first, and always walked 2 steps behind him in the corridors. Jake found this behavior both annoying and embarrassing. His crew was starting to treat Zara like she was his personal servant, which made him uncomfortable. But every time he tried to talk to her about it, she politely insisted that this was the proper way for someone in her position to behave. "Zara, you don't have to do this," Jake said one morning as she handed him his coffee. "You can get your own food whenever you want. You can sit wherever you want. You don't need my permission." "I understand your words," Zara replied, "but I do not understand your meaning. How can I act without direction from my lifeholder?" Jake sighed. This was the same conversation they had been having for weeks. "I'm not your lifeholder. I'm just a person who accidentally cut your hair during a fight. The universe does not make accidents," Zara said. "Everything happens for a reason." Despite their philosophical differences, Jake had to admit that Zara was incredibly useful to have around. Her knowledge of Veltar technology had helped the engineering team make improvements to the Horizon systems. Her understanding of alien combat tactics had given the security team new ideas for ship defense. And her presence had already changed how other species in the galaxy viewed humanity. 2 days earlier, they had stopped at a trading station near the Rigel system. The station master, an alien called a Threnody, had been much more respectful to Jake after learning that he traveled with a Veltar warrior who had undergone Thakmur. "The Veltar are known throughout this region of space," the Threnody had explained. "They are fierce fighters, but they are also honorable. If one of their warriors serves you, it means you are worthy of great respect." Jake had tried to explain that the situation was more complicated than that, but the Threnody would not listen. Word was already spreading through the galactic community that humanity had somehow earned the loyalty of a Veltar commander. This news was both good and bad. It meant that other alien species would take humans more seriously. But it also meant that Jake and Zara were becoming famous in ways they had not expected. The real test of their partnership came when they received an emergency signal from a human cargo ship called the Mercy. The ship was under attack by pirates in the Vega system, and it was too far away for any military vessels to reach in time. "We have to help them," Jake decided immediately. "Change course for the Vega system, maximum speed." "Sir," said Amy Chun from her station. "The Mercy is carrying medical supplies to a colony world. If those pirates steal or destroy that cargo, people will die." Jake nodded. The Horizon was not a warship, but it had helped fight pirates before. Usually, the sight of an Earth government vessel was enough to make the criminals run away, but when they reached the Vega system, Jake realized this situation was different. The pirates were using Veltar ships. "How is that possible?" Jake asked, staring at the tactical display. I thought the Veltar were honorable warriors. Zara stood beside him on the bridge, studying the enemy ships with a dark expression. These are not true Veltar, she said. These are outcasts, criminals who have been exiled from our society. They steal our ships and use our technology for evil purposes. Can we fight them? Jake asked. Zara was quiet for a moment, then she straightened her shoulders. Yes, but not in the way you fought my people before. These criminals know all the standard human tactics. They will expect you to use your guns and try to outmaneuver them. What do you suggest? We use Veltar tactics against them, Zara said. I can teach your crew how to fight like my people, but you must trust me completely. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They were all good people, but none of them had military training like Zara. Fighting experienced pirates with stolen alien technology would be dangerous. What would you need us to do? Jake asked. Zara moved to the tactical station and began calling up displays that showed the movement of the pirate ships. Veltar fleet combat is based on perfect coordination. Each ship must move as part of a single organism. Your crew must learn to think like one mind. For the next 2 hours, as the horizon approached the battle zone, Zara taught Jake's people how to fight like Veltar warriors. She showed them formation patterns that had been used by her people for thousands of years. She explained how Veltar ships communicated during battle, sharing information instantly so that the whole fleet could react to any threat. This is incredible, said Bob Miller, the tactical officer. It's like a dance, but with spaceships. Exactly, Zara said. But it only works if everyone trusts everyone else completely. There can be no doubt, no hesitation. Jake watched his crew practice the new formations on the ship's simulator. They were learning fast, but he could see that they were still thinking like individual humans rather than like parts of a group mind. I don't think we can master this in time, Jake said to Zara privately. My people aren't trained for this kind of coordination. Then we must use a different approach, Zara said. There is another way, but it requires you to trust me even more. What do you mean? Zara looked at him with her dark eyes. Let me take command of the battle. I know these pirates and I know how they think. Your crew can follow my orders, but I must be the one making the decisions. Jake felt his stomach tighten. Giving up command of his ship, even temporarily, went against everything he had been taught as a captain. But he also knew that Zara understood this enemy better than anyone else on the horizon. All right, Jake decided, but only for the battle. After we save the Mercy, command comes back to me. Understood, Zara said. When they finally reached the battle zone, Jake saw that the situation was worse than he had expected. The Mercy was badly damaged, its engines failing and its shields almost gone. 3 pirate ships were circling it like vultures, taking turns firing at the helpless cargo vessel. This is Captain Morrison of the UES Horizon, Jake announced over the communication system. Pirates, you are attacking a civilian vessel carrying medical supplies. Stand down immediately. The leader of the pirates appeared on Jake's screen. He was Veltar, but his blue skin was covered with scars and tattoos. His silver hair was cut short and styled in a way that Jake had never seen before. Human fool, the pirate leader said. Turn around and leave, or we will destroy you after we finish with this cargo ship. Zara stepped forward so that the pirate could see her. Velkoth Sarin, she said. I should have known it was you. The pirate leader's expression changed to one of surprise and anger. Zara Velthik, what are you doing on a human ship? I serve this human by the law of Thakmer, Zara said. And in his name, I order you to leave this system. Sarin laughed. But Jake could see that he was disturbed by Zara's presence. You always were a fool, Zara, following the old laws even when they lead you to serve inferior beings. These humans are not inferior, Zara said firmly. They have honor that you lost long ago. The conversation ended and the battle began, but this time Jake let Zara take control. He watched as she coordinated his crew with the precision of a master conductor leading an orchestra. Under Zara's direction, the horizon moved like it had never moved before. The ship flowed through space in patterns that confused the pirates and protected the damaged Mercy at the same time. "Fire on the lead ship," Zara commanded. "Amy, adjust our angle by 15 degrees. Bob, target their engine systems, not their—" "Hull?" Jake's crew responded to Zara's orders as if they had been working together for years. For the first time, Jake began to understand what Zara meant when she talked about perfect coordination. The battle was over in less than 20 minutes. 2 of the pirate ships were disabled, and the third one fled the system. The Mercy was saved, and no one on Jake's crew was seriously injured. As the crew celebrated their victory, Jake found Zara standing alone in the observation lounge. She was looking out at the stars again, but this time her expression was different. "That was amazing," Jake told her. "You saved that ship and probably hundreds of lives." "We saved them," Zara corrected. "Your crew followed my orders, but they fought with courage that came from their own hearts." Jake sat down beside her. "I'm starting to understand something. When you talk about service, you don't mean being a slave. You mean being part of something bigger than yourself." Zara looked at him with surprise. "Yes, that is exactly what I mean. And when I talk about individual freedom, I don't mean being selfish. I mean having the right to choose what you want to be part of." "I think I am beginning to understand that as well," Zara said. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars. Jake realized that somewhere during the past few weeks, his feelings about Zara had changed. She was no longer a burden or a responsibility. She had become his partner. 2 months after the pirate battle, Jake Morrison and Zara were working together at a space station called New Harmony when the emergency alert came through. A massive Veltar fleet had appeared at the edge of the Kepler system, where a convoy of human civilian ships was delivering supplies to a new colony world. "Sir, we're getting reports that the Veltar ships are not responding to communication attempts," reported the station commander, a woman named Carol Wright. "The civilian convoy is trapped. They can't escape, and they can't fight." Jake looked at the tactical display showing the situation. 23 human ships, most of them carrying families and children, were surrounded by a Veltar battle fleet that was 3 times larger than the one he had first encountered months ago. "This doesn't make sense," Jake said. "The Veltar government agreed to peaceful relations with humanity. Why would they attack civilians?" Zara studied the ship configurations on the screen, and Jake saw her expression grow dark. "These are not government ships," she said. "Look at the formation pattern. This is the Iron Claw faction." "What's the Iron Claw faction?" "Extremists," Zara explained. "They believe that my Thakmar bond with you is a sign of Veltar weakness. They think our species has been dishonored by associating with humans." Jake felt cold fear in his stomach. What do they want? "They want to prove that humans are unworthy allies by destroying your civilians," Zara said. "And they want to kill me for bringing shame to our people." Carol Wright looked between Jake and Zara. "Captain Morrison, the nearest Earth military fleet is 3 days away. Those civilians will be dead long before help arrives." Jake made his decision quickly. "Prepare my ship for departure. We're going to Kepler." "Sir, with respect, 1 ship against a whole fleet is suicide," Carol said. "Maybe," Jake replied, "but we have something they don't expect. We have someone who knows how they think." An hour later, the Horizon was racing through space toward the Kepler system. Jake's crew was nervous but determined. They had fought alongside Zara before, and they trusted her judgment even in this impossible situation. "Tell me about the Iron Claw faction," Jake said to Zara as they traveled. "How do they fight?" "They are fanatical but predictable," Zara explained. "Their leader is a warrior named Korvac Tholmor. He believes that the old ways are the only ways. He will not expect us to use combined human and Veltar tactics." "What's his weakness?" Zara was quiet for a moment. "Pride. He thinks he cannot be defeated by a human, especially one who travels with a dishonored Veltar. He will want to face you in personal combat to prove his superiority. Can we use that against him? Perhaps? But Jake, you must understand something. If we do this, if we fight the Iron Claw faction, there will be no going back. You will be involved in Veltar politics forever. Jake looked at her. Are you saying I shouldn't help those civilians? No, Zara said quickly. I'm saying that after today, you will not be just a human ship captain anymore. You will be someone who shapes the future of both our species. When they reached the Kepler system, Jake saw the civilian convoy clustered together near the colony world. The human ships looked tiny and helpless compared to the Veltar warships surrounding them. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the UES Horizon, Jake announced on all frequencies. Iron Claw ships, you are threatening innocent civilians. Withdraw immediately. The response came from the largest Veltar ship, a massive vessel that looked like it was built for destruction rather than exploration. Human, said a harsh voice. I am Korvac Thulmor, and I do not speak with inferior beings. Send me the traitor Zara so that she can face judgment for her crimes. Zara stepped forward. I am here, Korvac. But I am no longer the person you once knew. Korvac's image appeared on the screen. He was larger than most Veltar, with scars covering his blue skin and silver hair that was woven with bones and metal spikes. His eyes burned with fanatic hatred. Zara Velthic, he snarled. You have brought shame to our entire species by serving a human. You will die for this dishonor. I have brought no shame, Zara replied calmly. I have learned that honor comes from doing what is right, not from following old rules blindly. You dare speak to me of honor? Korvac shouted. You, who kneel. Before aliens? I kneel before no one, Zara said. I stand beside someone who has shown me a better way to live. Jake watched the conversation with growing understanding. This was not really about him or about human-Veltar relations. This was about two different ideas of what it meant to be honorable. Korvac, Jake said. If you want to settle this, let's settle it properly. Single combat between ships. If I win, your fleet leaves the system. If you win, you can do whatever you want. Korvac's expression changed to one of cruel pleasure. You would face me in combat, human? You, who needed luck and accident to defeat Zara? I'll face you, Jake said. But I won't fight the way you expect. What followed was unlike any space battle that had ever been fought. Jake and Zara worked together as pilot and navigator, combining human creativity with Veltar precision. Their ship moved through space like a dancer, flowing around Korvac's attacks while delivering precise strikes in return. Korvac was a skilled fighter, but he was also predictable. He used the same traditional combat forms that Zara had once used, and Jake had learned how to counter those moves. The battle raged for nearly an hour. Other Veltar ships in the Iron Claw fleet began to watch more carefully as they saw their leader struggling against a single human vessel. Finally, Jake saw his chance. Korvac made the same high-angle attack that Zara had used months ago during their first fight. But this time, Jake was ready for it. Working together, Jake and Zara disabled Korvac's ship without destroying it. The Iron Claw leader found himself defenseless, his weapons offline and his engines dead. It is finished, Jake announced to the Iron Claw fleet. Your leader has been defeated honorably. By Veltar law, you must withdraw. But something unexpected happened. Instead of withdrawing, several ships in the Iron Claw fleet began moving toward their leader's disabled vessel. They're going to rescue him, Amy Chun reported. No, Zara said, studying the tactical display. They're not rescuing him, they're joining us. Jake watched in amazement as half of the Iron Claw fleet broke formation and moved away from their disabled leader. The ships that remained loyal to Korvac began to retreat toward the edge of the system. What's happening? Jake asked. You have shown them something they had never seen before, Zara explained. A human and a Veltar fighting as true equals, using both of our people's strengths together. Some of them are beginning to understand that this is not weakness. This is evolution. In the days that followed, Jake found himself at the center of a political revolution that was spreading through Veltar space. The warriors who had defected from Korvac's fleet became the core of a new movement that believed in cooperation between species rather than isolation and conflict. Zara was offered the chance to lead this new movement. to become a commander again and return to her people. But she surprised everyone, including Jake, with her response. "I have served under the law of Fakemur for many months," she announced to the gathered Veltar officers. "I have learned that true honor comes not from following ancient laws, but from choosing to do what is right. Therefore, I ask that the Fakemur bond be formally ended." Jake felt a strange sadness at her words. Even though he had always wanted her to be free, the ritual to end the Fakemur bond was simple but moving. Zara and Jake stood before the assembled crews of both human and Veltar ships. A Veltar elder spoke ancient words that released Zara from all obligations. "You are free," Jake told her when the ceremony was finished. "You can go back to your people, or you can do whatever you want with your life." Zara looked at him with a smile that was both sad and happy. "Thank you for teaching me about choice," she said. "Now I would like to make my first free choice." "What's that?" "I choose to stay with you," Zara said. "Not because ancient laws require it, but because I want to help build a future where humans and Veltar can work together as equals." Jake felt his heart lift. "Are you sure? You could command your own ship again? You could be a leader among your people?" "I am sure," Zara said. "Besides, someone needs to make sure you don't accidentally start any more interstellar incidents." Jake laughed. "That's probably a good idea." 6 months later, Jake and Zara were serving together as joint ambassadors, helping to establish the first permanent human Veltar colony. Zara's hair had grown back, but she wore it in a new style that combined traditional Veltar braids with a freedom of movement that represented her new life. They were standing in the observation deck of their new ship, watching human and Veltar colonists working together to build homes on a distant world. "Do you ever regret it?" Jake asked. "Giving up your old life, I mean." Zara considered the question carefully. "No," she said finally. "My old life was about following rules that other people made long ago. My new life is about making choices that create a better future." Jake nodded. "I'm glad you chose to stay." "So am I," Zara said. "After all, someone needs to teach you proper Veltar combat techniques. You still fight like a barbarian." Jake grinned. "And someone needs to teach you how to relax and have fun. You still act like you're on duty 24 hours a day."